When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: Ozzfest. User: Mosh. Posted July 3rd, 1997.
The second I heard Dime kick into that riff, I felt like I was on top of the goddamn world. Fuck. I'd been waiting for this my entire life, and my blood was pumping with the kind of ferocity only motherfucking Pantera could throttle. I mean, sure, there was some other stuff mixed in. A couple tabs of acid, a little weed, and, something Ricky called blotter spice that I didn't ask too many questions about, but look, that's beside the point. With Phil's howls coming over the speakers and Vinnie Paul pounding those damn drums like he was trying to crack open the sky, everything else melted away. The enormous crowd around me, the torturous heat, hell, even all the shit with my parents back home. Fuck it all. I was here. I was where I was supposed to be. June 21st, 1997, Alpine Valley Music Theater. I don't care how cynical you are. You put Pantera, Sabbath, and Slayer in the same lineup and drop that into a natural amphitheater carved into rolling Midwestern farmland, and you summon the gods, man. Or at least, that's what I thought would happen. It didn't shift all at once. It came in pulses, like a short in your peripheral vision. First, it was the stage lights, flickering strangely, then the air, which had been dense with sweat and grass and spilled beer. It took on this weird metallic taste now. People's faces stopped making sense, too. They were smooth, eyes glassy, and fixed in the wrong direction, like mannequins mimicking motion, rather than metalheads ready to go to battle. Then I blinked, and the guy next to me unfolded. That's right, unfolded. It's the only word I have for it. His skin started bending backward like paper pulled through a shredder. He turned and looked right at me, his face glitching between 3 or 4 different versions of itself in less than a second, and then he turned and smiled at me like he knew I was finally aware. It was like a rip in the cloth. And that's when I saw the rest of them. People I'd moshed with, high-fived in the beer line, sat next to on the hill, but now they weren't people. They were puppets. Things wearing human skin like it was damp clothing. Some had elongated arms, joints where there shouldn't be joints. Others were faceless, their heads shaped like melting wax. One guy had what looked like horns growing down his spine, shifting and wavering with every step. my heart pounded. Alpine Valley was not a venue anymore. It was a gateway, and that bruising chainsaw sound from Dime's guitar had severed off into sounds I hardly recognized. Phil's voice seemed as if it was a million miles away and stuffed underwater. The slope of the lawn before me curved downward into what looked more and more like the inside of a throne. The crowd moved not of their own will, but as if pulled forward, fed into the fire, and the stage, Jesus Christ, the stage was alive. The metal scaffolding had begun to pulse, bones and spires erupting from the base. Speakers glowed hot red. You could feel the heat in your gums, and then the ground opened. It cracked beneath the front row like dry earth. A fissure belched flame and smoke, and from it came a sound. Not Pantera, not Slayer, not Cold Chamber or Fear Factory. This was older than music. It was a frequency designed to undo creation. It rattled inside your chest cavity and made your thoughts unspool. And that is when it climbed out. The creature was massive, dragon-like maybe, if you squinted, but something even more monstrous I can hardly define. Its body was coiled around the sound rig. Its wings looked like oil slicks stretched over insect legs. Its mouth had no lips, just rows and rows of blackened teeth grinding against one another in time with the rhythm. It didn't roar, it spoke. In feedback, distortion, and sustained bass drones that cracked the grass beneath my feet. The crowd went still, kneeling, worshiping, offering themselves up. Then again, maybe they weren't offering. Maybe they were already part of it. I stood there, frozen, watching the demon rise, and realized something awful. I was not hallucinating. I was seeing clearly for the first time. Every angry, violent impulse, every ounce of suffering in that crowd, it had been feeding this thing. The music didn't summon it, it relieved it. This place, this town, had always been its mouth, and I was standing on its tongue. Then, from out of nowhere, I heard it. A harmonica. Soft, simple, just a few haunting notes bellowing out into the air. It was the opening to The Wizard, and it pierced through the haze like a clean blade. The crowd froze. The creature hissed and started to unravel, its form curling into smoke and ash as the sky shifted and the grass stopped writhing. Tony Iommi stepped forward, egoless, void of emotion, stoically unaware of the hideous nature of his surroundings, and a riff started to bloom out of his SG over the valley like a war cry. The sound was real, physical. It pushed everything else back. Every note felt like it had weight, like it hit the ground and left a crater. The lawn, the pit, the stage, everything vibrated with Iommi's dark tone. Then Ozzy emerged from the fog, arms raised like a conductor, and he stepped up to the mic, but what came out of his mouth wasn't misty morning clouds in the sky. No, it was something else, and it was directed specifically at me. You've seen the truth they tried to hide. You've heard the names, you've breathed their spell. You stay here, boy, you'll lose your name, your soul will burn, and you'll take the blame. He looked right at me, through me, but no one else seemed to notice. Everyone was moshing and headbanging and enjoying every second of Sabbath's classic, but for me, it wasn't what it seemed. This wasn't the wizard. It was a warning song. Run now, run, and don't come back. Don't look behind, don't lose the track. Leave this place, go far and fast, or they will find you, just like the last. That was all I needed. I took off running, shoving past people standing in trances, stepping over bodies half consumed by the mud. I wasn't gonna wait to find out what came next. I wasn't gonna see what the encore could possibly be for this fucking show. I drove back to Janesville alone, window down, shirt soaked through with sweat. Honestly, I don't even remember getting to my car, just the feeling that was burning inside me, the fear. I don't know what's coming next. I don't know what is underneath this town and how I play into that, but I know that if the Prince of fucking Darkness warns you to run from evil, then there's gotta be some fucking truth to that, and my ass is getting out of here.
Subject, Sleepy Pines Motor Lodge. User, M_T8. Posted, March 14th, 1997.
The neon sign out front said Sleepy Pines Motor Lodge, but half the letters were dead and most of the rest of them were flickering. I should have kept steaming down 81, but I didn't have another mile left in me, and after years of spending more nights in these roach motels than I have in my own bed, I've gotten a bit numb to giving a shit anyway. For a couple decades now, I've been running parts for farm equipment, combines, balers, all the stuff that keeps fields moving, which means I'm always on the road, chasing deliveries from one end of the plains to the other. My boss calls me a driver, but it feels more like being a ghost. You show up, hand off the part, and fade back onto the highway before anyone remembers your name. This one was somewhere off Highway 81, middle of Nebraska. Flat land in every direction, and nothing but the grain silos and the wind. I'd been driving all day, dog-tired, eyes buzzing from the white line. So I pulled into the half-empty, cracked concrete lot of the Sleepy Pines, grabbed my shit, and got out. The office smelled like stale coffee and cigarettes, and the guy behind the counter didn't look up from his Field and Stream until I rang the bell. "I need a room," I told him, peeling a 20 from my wallet. He rummaged in a drawer and pulled out a heavy brass key, real old school, with a cracked plastic fob dangling. The number on it looked scratched out and rewritten in ink. Room 17. The room was at the far end, practically against the tree line, carpet stained with God knows what, curtains clinging to the rod, air thick and sour like mildew and smoke rolled together. The TV wouldn't turn on, not even static, just a dead black screen staring back. I told myself I didn't give a shit anyway. I just needed sleep. I had to be up before sunrise to run a replacement gear out to a farmer who swore his entire harvest was on hold till I showed. So I ain't really gonna have much time to enjoy these finer parts of the sleepy pine anyway. I went ahead, laid down, shoes still on, bag in my feet, and listened to the hum of the window unit. A wretched vibration, just loud enough to drown my thoughts, but not enough to keep me from noticing how damn quiet everything else was. No semis on the road, no crickets outside, not even wind in the trees. Nebraska's never silent, not out there. Then the phone rang. It was one of them clunky beige desk phones, the kind every motel seemed to have. The shrill ring cut through me and I picked up. Hello? Nothing. Just breathing, slow and heavy. I hung up and sat there staring at it. My heart beat faster than it should have. A couple minutes later, it rang again. Listen, I snapped. I'm not in the mood. Still, nothing but that breathing. It was deeper this time, wet somehow, like someone struggling to breathe through water. I dropped the receiver back into the cradle, shoved the phone against the wall, and told myself I wasn't about to lose it over a prank call. But the third time it rang, I didn't answer. I just sat there in the dark, counting every shriek of the bell until it stopped on its own. Sleep didn't come easy after that. Every creak of the walls sounded like footsteps. Every shadow in the curtain folds seemed to twitch. Finally, a couple hours before dawn, I gave up. I grabbed my bag and marched back to the front office. The clerk was still there, same chair, same magazine, like he hadn't moved all night. I need another room, I told him. The phone keeps ringing. He looked up at me real slow, like he's dragging himself back from someplace far away. Which room? 17. For the first time, he blinked and his mouth even twitched. 17? Yeah, what's wrong with it? There ain't one. I laughed, sharp and nervous. Well, you gave me the key. I slept there. He shook his head. No, you didn't. I held up the fob to prove it, except when I opened my hand, there was nothing there. No key, no fob, just the imprint where the brass should have pressed into my skin. The clerk just stared at me. And then, slow as a funeral march, the phone on the counter rang. Same sound, shrill, broken, tearing at the air. He didn't reach for it, didn't move at all, just looked at me like he was waiting to see what I'd do. I walked out without checking out, without another word. I got in my parts truck and drove until the sun came up and the highway filled with grain haulers.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.